Diogenes the Cynic, the wild philosopher who shamed the world. Stoic bloom. What if the most honest man who ever lived also barked like a pig, lived in a barrel, and mocked society to its face? He insulted kings, rejected wealth, mocked Plato, and carried a lamp in broad daylight, searching for a truly honest man. Was he insane or just radically free? Before cancel culture, before social rebellion, before modern minimalism, there was Diogenes, a one-man revolution armed with shamelessness and wisdom sharper than a sword. Part 1. The madman or the freest man on earth. Diogenes wasn't just eccentric. He was the original philosophical shockwave. Picture this, a filthy man living in a clay barrel in the center of Athens. He owns nothing, begs for food, and publicly urinates and masturbates as if no one's watching. Not because he's lost his mind, but because he's found a truth so raw, so liberating, it tears social norms apart like paper. People called him mad, yet he claimed he was the only sane man in a city of deluded slaves. While others polished their sandals and flaunted wealth, he walked barefoot over hot stones, searching not for gold, but for freedom from illusion. To Diogenes, civilization was a cage, comforts were shackles, and manners were masks. He chose to strip it all away, to live like a disciples, but think like a wow. Cynicism wasn't hatred, it was clarity. Brutal, honest, unfiltered clarity. When someone asked why he lived like that, he replied, because it's the only way to be truly free. And in an age obsessed with appearances, maybe the dirtiest man in Athens was also the cleanest soul in Greece. If this brutal honesty stings, in the best way, then help this truth ripple louder. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, share this video with a fellow misfit, or drop a comment on which part of society you'd love Diogenes to roast today. Let's keep shaking the system. One Stoic rebel at a time. Stoic bloom, speak freely, think fiercely, live absurdly wise. Part 2. Owning nothing yet possessing everything. To most people, freedom looks like luxury, a penthouse view, a fine robe, a full table. But to Diogenes, real freedom began the moment you needed none of it. He famously tossed away his only wooden bowl when he saw a boy drinking water from his hands. "A child has surpassed me in simplicity," he muttered. That was Diogenes, always ready to discard anything that hinted at unnecessary comfort or attachment. While society climbed ladders to gain more, Diogenes dug deeper to need less. He didn't just preach minimalism, he embodied it. When asked what wealth meant to him, he said, "I am rich, for I desire nothing." Unlike those clinging to gold and praise, Diogenes could not be bribed, bought, or blackmailed. He had no house to rob, no title to strip, no reputation to stain, and that made him untouchable. It wasn't poverty he promoted, it was detachment. A core Stoic principle Epictetus would later echo. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. By owning nothing, Diogenes owned himself. By depending on no one, he could laugh in the face of kings. And by stripping down to the essentials, he proved a wild truth. The fewer things you need, the fewer chains you wear. Stoic bloom. True power starts where craving ends. Part 3. Mocking the wise to expose their folly. While others whispered their disagreements in alleyways, Diogenes roared his in the middle of the agora. And no one was safe, not even the great Plato. Plato once defined man as a featherless biped. So what did Diogenes do? He plucked a chicken, stormed into Plato's academy, and shouted, "Behold, a man!" The students were horrified. But Diogenes didn't come to entertain. He came to demolish false wisdom with comic violence. This wasn't madness, it was surgical satire. He wielded embarrassment like a sword, not to harm but to awaken. His life was a walking protest against the arrogance of abstract thinking that ignored the messiness of life. He didn't just argue with words, he used performance to dismantle pretense. He pissed on people's pride. He barked at hypocrisy. He walked backwards down the street to remind everyone that their lives, chasing vanity, were already backward. And when someone asked him what he thought of philosophy, he didn't answer. He just kept living in a way that made every philosopher uncomfortable. That was his answer. Diogenes didn't want to be right. He wanted to reveal how ridiculous our delusions are. He used laughter like a mirror, and in it, society saw its own absurdity. Now tell me, if Diogenes had a YouTube channel, wouldn't you subscribe just to see who he'd roast next? Since we're keeping the flame alive, hit that subscribe button, share this video with someone who thinks too highly of themselves, or drop a comment with your favorite Diogenes insult. Remember, even mockery, when rooted in truth, can be a sacred act. Stoic bloom. Unmask the world. Laugh with purpose. Live with none to impress. Part 4. The Lantern and the Search for One Honest Man. One of the most iconic images of Diogenes is this: a ragged old man wandering the streets of Athens in broad daylight, holding a lit lantern. When asked what he was doing, he replied, "I'm looking for an honest man." This wasn't a joke, it was a critique of a society that claimed to value virtue but built itself on lies, posturing, and polished facades. Diogenes was holding up a mirror, not a flame. He walked into temples, marketplaces, even brothels with that lantern, scanning face, inspecting souls. And each time, he walked away disappointed, not because there were no good people, but because so few were courageous enough to be truly honest. Diogenes wasn't naive. He understood the human condition better than most. That's precisely why he held others to a higher standard, because he refused to pretend that self-deception was normal. This moment reveals something deeply Stoic. True virtue isn't about being perceived as good. It's about being good when no one is watching, when it costs you, when it hurts. Marcus Aurelius echoed this in his Meditations. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. Diogenes didn't find an honest man, but maybe that was the point. The moment you need a lantern to find integrity is the moment you realize how far we've drifted from the light within. Stoic bloom, carry the lantern, be the flame, seek the truth, even in daylight. Part 5, Meeting Alexander the Great, the Slave and the Emperor. In one of the most legendary encounters in all of philosophy, Diogenes meets Alexander the Great, the most powerful man on earth. Alexander had heard stories about this madman who lived like a stray dog but spoke like a god. So, intrigued, he visited Diogenes. Standing before him in all his regal glory, he said, "I am Alexander the Great." Diogenes replied without looking up, "And I am Diogenes the dog." Unshaken by royalty, Diogenes stared directly at the sun. Alexander asked him, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And here came the reply that echoed through history, "Yes, stand out of my sunlight." No flattery, no fear, just the raw assertion of inner power. Alexander, stunned but impressed, is said to have told his entourage, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." This moment flips power on its head. One man rules the world, but still wants something. The other wants nothing, yet is completely content. This, dear listener, is the Stoic ideal of invincibility, not through domination, but through independence of soul. Diogenes showed that true greatness is not measured by how many lands you conquer, but how little you need to feel whole. When external power bows to internal freedom, it's not the emperor who wins, it's the philosopher in the dirt. If you're tired of chasing after things that don't make you feel whole, Maybe it's time to step out of the empire and into your own sunlight. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, send this to someone who needs less thrones and more freedom, and drop a comment. What would you say if Alexander showed up asking to help you? Stoic Bloom, rule nothing, need nothing, radiate everything. Part 6, the barrel, his home, his throne, his protest. While others built palaces, Diogenes moved into a barrel, not a metaphorical one, a literal, hollowed-out clay wine jar where he slept, thought, and received visitors. To many, it was absurd, but to Diogenes, it was the ultimate protest. Why do we build walls only to trap ourselves inside them? The barrel wasn't just shelter, it was a declaration, a rejection of vanity, of excess, of the illusion that more possessions equal more security. In his clay vessel, exposed to cold nights and public ridicule, Diogenes was freer than the kings who guarded their riches behind battlements. His home was unstealable, unsellable, and perfectly sufficient. He once watched a man building a lavish house and said, "The more you add to the roof, the more rain you'll notice." This was Diogenes' paradox. The less he owned, the richer his peace became. Seneca, the Stoic statesman, would later echo this spirit. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor. Diogenes didn't romanticize hardship. He weaponized it. His discomfort was a constant reminder that comfort is not the same as freedom. In a world obsessed with cushions and curtains, he embraced raw simplicity. Because when you live in a barrel, there's no space for ego, only truth. Stoic Bloom. Comfort ends where clarity begins. Live bare, think sharp. Part 7. Public insults and the art of shameless truth. Diogenes didn't just ignore social norms, he mocked them to their face. He defecated in public. He pleasured himself in the marketplace. He urinated on the people who insulted him. Why? Not to be vulgar, but to strip society of its hypocrisy. He once said, "If only it were as easy to soothe hunger by rubbing your stomach as it is to relieve desire by rubbing your loins." Diogenes lived as if shame was a disease, and he'd been vaccinated. His madness wasn't madness at all. It was clarity delivered through confrontation. He believed that only by destroying shame could we rebuild sincerity. Only by exposing false politeness could we reach honest speech. And only by embracing our raw animal nature could we begin to transcend it. This is where Diogenes aligns with the Stoics. While Marcus Aurelius wrote of taming desires, Diogenes took it further. He laughed at desire's very existence. He didn't suppress urges. He disarmed them by refusing to feel guilty about them. And once guilt died, desire lost its teeth. He wasn't promoting chaos. He was promoting authenticity without apology. Because when you stop pretending, the world loses its power to embarrass you. Now, if you've ever held back your truth just to keep someone else comfortable, maybe it's time to embrace a little bit of Diogenes. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, share this video with someone who needs a license to stop caring, and comment at your favorite social rule you'd love to throw into the barrel. Because let's face it, pretending is exhausting. But truth, that's pure freedom. Stoic Bloom, be shameless, be true, bark back at the world. Conclusion. The madman who was truly free. What made Diogenes dangerous wasn't his poverty, his crude words, or his rebellion. It was his freedom, the kind of freedom that comes when a man owes nothing to the world and demands nothing in return. He didn't need gold, approval, applause, or followers. He needed only the sun, the earth beneath his feet, and the courage to live honestly. Diogenes reminded us that we don't need to conquer the world to feel powerful. Sometimes the most powerful act is to laugh in the face of power, to say no to conformity, and to refuse to sell your soul just to be liked. He was not a Stoic in name, but in essence he lived the Stoic dream. Unafraid of loss, unattached to wealth, unimpressed by titles. A man reduced to nothing who became everything. So if you ever feel out of place in a world obsessed with status, noise, and polished masks, remember the man in the barrel. He had less than anyone, and yet he lacked nothing. Now, if this message stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, where we dig up forgotten truths and dare to laugh with the ancient madmen who were wiser than kings. Share this with someone who needs less pretending and more perspective. Leave a comment, drop a like, and if you're feeling brave, tell us, what lie are you finally ready to stop believing? Stoic Bloom. Let go. Look inward. Live free.